Hello, everybody, and welcome. Thank you for joining us for this special discussion, United Through Music, a discussion on Black and Jewish collaboration through the years, which is being presented by the recently launched Black Jewish Entertainment Alliance. We will come back to that certainly many times throughout the night. I'm Bill Werde. I'm director of the BJEA program for the music industry in the Newhouse School at Syracuse University. I'm also the former editorial director of Billboard, and I tweet probably far more often than I should about the music business at Bill Werde, all one word. I want to remind folks of the intended focus tonight, a discussion on Black and Jewish collaboration through the years. Future dialogues will probably be more targeted to figuring out, sort of precisely and tactically where today's entertainment industry needs to make strides and adjustments to create real progress on some of these very complex issues. I do, though, think that progress begins with understanding. It begins with empathy. And one of the ways we create empathy is with stories. This is a night to tell stories, to ask questions, and I think we could not have better panelists for that. So let me introduce them, and we will get started. I could probably say that all of our panelists truly require no introduction, but I am about to give them lengthy introductions, so that would just be silly. So I'm going to start with Sharon Osbourne, the ultimate jack of all trades, a TV star, manager, producer, philanthropist, author. She has overseen the massive success of her husband's career, the legendary Ozzy Osbourne, of course, the frontman of Black Sabbath. She's also well known for appearing on the hit MTV reality series The Osbournes, has been featured as a talent judge on multiple television shows, including X Factor UK and America's Got Talent, as well as co-hosting the hit CBS show The Talk. She's the founder of Sharon Osbourne Management, the Sharon Osbourne Colon Cancer Program at Cedars-Sinai Hospital, and has released 4 books. She's been the recipient of numerous awards, including, and this is an incredible title, not one I'm arguing with, including being voted the, quote, most amazing woman of 2003. Sharon, welcome. I think you might need to unmute. I'll tell you what, we'll do all the introductions and then we'll get all the panelists unmuted at once.
I got it. Can you hear me now?
There we go.
Yeah.
Yes, we can.
Well, thank you very much. A pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to be chatting with you tonight. I'm really looking forward to getting into some stories. Randy Jackson is an American bassist, singer, record producer, entrepreneur, and television star. Jackson has recorded, produced, or toured with top artists and bands, including Journey, Keith Richards, Mariah Carey, Whitney Houston, Celine Dion, Madonna, John Bon Jovi, Stevie Nicks, Bruce Springsteen. Honestly, the list is kind of endless. It sounds like the entire Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He is also widely known for his appearances as the longest-serving judge on American Idol, an executive producer for MTV's America's Best Dance Crew. Jackson hosts a radio top 40 countdown known as Randy Jackson's Hit List, and has also worked as a band manager and executive, spending years as vice president of A&R at Columbia Records and heading A&R at MCA Records. Mr. Jackson, welcome.
Thank you so much. Hi, Sharon.
Oh, Randy, so good to see you, my friend. Good.
Amazing to see you. I love Sharon, Bill, just so you know. And Marty Van Deer, Bill.
Excellent. These are great people to love. I can tell this is already going to be a family reunion, which is great for storytelling. Hopefully, the next panelist I'm going to introduce will be willing to come out of his shell. Gene Simmons is an international rock legend and co-founder of the band Kiss, with millions of dedicated fans throughout the world, known as Kiss Army, and over 100 million albums sold worldwide. Kiss continues to sell out stadiums and arenas everywhere, breaking box office records set by bands you've probably heard of, like Elvis and the Beatles. Kiss was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2014, and in 1999 received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. A serial entrepreneur, Gene has also achieved success that reaches far beyond his music career, extending into television, film, publishing, merchandising, restaurants, consumer products, and more. Among these include 7 authored books, several of which are New York Times bestsellers, his family-style rock-inspired restaurant chain, Rock and Brews, and his own reality show, Gene Simmons' Family Jewels, which is one of the longest-running reality shows of all time. Gene is a generous philanthropist, dedicated parent, and an inspirational public speaker on all things from business to politics. Gene Simmons, welcome.
Hi, everybody. Nice to see you.
Hi,
Great to be here with you.
Gene, what's up, baby? I want to rock and roll all night, Gene.
I gotta write that down. Good idea.
All right, and a native Philadelphian, which means you are very near and dear to my heart. Stanley Clark is a 4-time Grammy Award-winning recording artist, performer, composer, conductor, arranger, and producer. One of the most celebrated jazz bass players in the world, having shared the stage and worked with many of the greats, including Horace Silver, Art Blakey, Stan Getz, the Rolling Stones, Jeff Beck, just to name a few. Together with the late Chick Corea, Stanley created the groundbreaking jazz rock fusion unit Return to Forever, which became one of the seminal bands of the fusion era. He has also released several widely regarded solo albums, becoming the first jazz fusion bassist to headline tours, sell out shows worldwide, and have recordings reach gold status. He also has some 70 film and television credits to his name and scored many, many hit blockbuster films, beloved films, including Boys in the Hood, What's Love Got to Do with It. Giving back, Stanley and his wife, Sophia, established the Stanley Clark Foundation, a charitable organization which awards scholarships to talented young musicians each year. Stanley's talent and success directly influenced and inspired a whole generation of bassists who followed in his footsteps. Stanley, welcome to the conversation.
How you doing?
Hi.
Can you see me there? Am I there?
We got everyone here.
That's Clark. What's up, man? Love you.
Hey, Randy, how you doing, man?
Bro. Love you, man.
Very good. Love you too. Hey, Gene, how you doing?
Got all our hello.
I waved. Hi, Stanley.
Hey, Gene, good to see you, man. Good to see you. And Sharon, nice to meet you.
Bless you.
Yes.
So
All right.
listen, before we jump right into some questions here, I want to remind everyone out there in the audience that you should feel free, you should feel encouraged to use the Q&A function to post questions at any time you have them. And with that, listen, let's jump right into things. The Black Jewish Entertainment Alliance was announced on February 1st. And so I think my first question to each of you who have signed on to that organization is, why do you feel this organization is necessary today? Maybe we'll start with Sharon and then we'll hear some additional answers if folks have things to add.
Yeah, it's for me, it's something that's been going on probably since I was about 20. And the more books that I read, the more I learned about history, the more I traveled the world, I realized that there were as many people that didn't like my religion, that didn't like dealing or working with Black people. And it was always like, how come we're not together? How come some of us fight with each other? How we're dealing with the same things here. We're dealing with people that have a great ignorance, and why are we not closer as people? I never quite understood it, and the older I've gotten, it just seems that it gets further and further away. I don't understand it.
A lot of history there. Stanley, looks like you wanted to add something.
Yeah, I was just going to say, a lot of these things, like contention between tribes or racial groups, or because it's interesting when you say Black. I'm going to be 70 years old in about a couple months, and I was born in 1951 in Philadelphia, and I remember, first of all, like Black people are the most named people. I remember being a little colored boy. I remember being a Negro. I remember being Black, African American, and many other names I was called. I think that a lot of these things we have to be careful not to generalize so much. I mean, all my career I've had, and even when I was a kid, I had friends of all sorts of different nationalities and ethnicities, and I'm not trying to say that it's not as bad as it appears, but I mean, I mean, and I'm not cracking a joke or anything. I mean, I've always had Jewish lawyers, you know. I mean, I just, you know, I've record companies, you know, I don't sense the real like hatred between two groups.
I don't think there's
I
hate.
think, okay, let me finish my thought. I think that a real productive thing to do with an alliance like this is to spot problems. And these two groups are very powerful in the entertainment business. Let's face it, it's been, you know, we can go back in history, you know, it's just a lot of things there. And I think it's important that we could actually do things as two groups or two tribes or whatever you want to call it, and actually look at things. There's a lot of areas of education that's lacking in neighborhoods. There's just so many different things we could do. For me personally, I would like to take this opportunity to spend more time talking about what we can actually do as opposed to the history. The history is important, but I just want to say one thing. During the civil rights era, which I grew up in, the Negroes, I guess we were calling at that time, were shoulder to shoulder with Jewish people. If you look at those marches, you look at, you know, who was around Martin Luther King, there were a lot of Jewish people. So I think, you know, lately, someone says something because of the nature of the media, social media, the news that comes in, it's so asymmetrical, you can't really find the source if it's credible or not. And again, I'm not saying that it's like all rosy, but I just don't think it's as bad as it appears to be.
I don't think it is in the industry. Of course it's not in the industry.
No, I'd like to chime in.
Go on.
Yeah, let's hear
Look,
from
I approach this from the point of view of my mother. I was a little boy, the only child to my mother. My mother was 14 years of age when she was in the concentration camps of Nazi Germany. Our entire family were wiped out. I only understood just the tip of the iceberg of what hatred could lead to. Hatred unchecked. Because you got to remember, 2 million gypsies, 2 million Catholics, 6 million Jews. There were Romani in there. If you were gay, you were in there. If you were politically not respected by the Germans, they were all killed. Billions and millions more than the 6 million Jews. But half the world's Jewish population were wiped out like that. My mother told me those stories, and I want to just quickly get to the point. When I was a little boy, 6, 7 years old, I was always afraid. We had a one-bedroom in Williamsburg, a semi-ghetto area. There were not a lot of, anyway, it was a one-bedroom kind of place. And I would always be afraid of going into the kitchen because there'd be cockroaches on the street. My mother would laugh, and bless her, she lived to be 93 years old. She'd walk with me, take my hand, and turn on the light. And I learned that by turning on the light, I could see a cockroach, and I'm going, oh my God, there's a cockroach. I can plainly see it with my own eyes, and then I'd be scared. The cockroach would go under the refrigerator, and then I thought, oh, great, we're safe. My mother knew what it was all about. She went to the refrigerator and pulled it apart, tore it apart from the wall, and there they were, all congregating together, all these cockroaches. And my mother understood, in her wisdom, just the plain nature of hate. Left unchecked, without the spotlight putting on it, they congregate in the darkness, and they live among us. And I want to tell you one other quick story. In the early 80s, I lived with Diana Ross. We had a relationship, and wonderful lady and all that kind of stuff. And she told me stories. You know, we'd walk down the street. It was in New York, so it's cosmopolitan. It's a different thing if you're Black and walking down the street in Alabama or Wisconsin, okay? And I don't know that experience. So she'd tell me the story of the Supremes were so big that the Dave Clark 5 opened for them on the Dick Clark Cavalcade Stars. The Dave Clark 5 was bigger than the Beatles for at least a year. Sharon knows. They were enormous. They had movies before the Beatles. And the Supremes had 6 #1 hits off their first record. And I was going out with the lead singer. So she'd tell me stories. The Supremes would go all the way down south, And people would go, you know, the Supremes, Dave Clark 5 and all that. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. And after the show, Diana and the girls could not sleep in a regular hotel. They'd have to go and sleep. This is not in the 1800s. This is 1965. They'd have to sleep in what's called the Colored Hotel. And on the way out on the Dick Clark bus, there were bullet holes in the bus. Okay? So you're talking about hatred. I understand through my mother's eyes and her experience what hatred could lead to. Hatred unchecked is like a cancer in your body. If you don't catch it early enough, and that means all the Karens out there that spew hatred to anybody, Asian, Black, Hispanic, get them. Take out your cell phones. That's your power. Get them. Let's put it on YouTube. Let's identify who they are. What are their names? Where do they live? You have that right. You don't have to break the law. And guess what? They're going to be fired from the jobs. And unless you shine a light on these cockroaches, they're going to keep multiplying. And before you know it, they're going to walk up the steps of our government and take it over. Because don't kid yourself, the QAnon people and all those neo-Nazis and the Confederate flags are racists. I don't care about who won the presidency. That's all nonsense. All those people were racists, full of hatred. And the best thing the FBI is doing is identifying who they are. You got to do that. And we all have that power. Let's find the Karens and the haters among us. Shot to Stanley's point, we can talk about flowery stories and all this kind of stuff. That hatred left unchecked is going to result in, the UN just issued a statement saying that the worst problem in the world right now, other than the pandemic, is white supremacy. It's among us, and we've got to identify and find out who these people are.
I want to first give, please, Randy, go ahead and take an opportunity to share. The question here, again, just to bring people back to it, is why this organization, why now?
I think this organization, why now, is exactly what everyone's been saying. The education we so desperately need, the conversation we so desperately need. I grew up in the lovable, dirty, dirty, dirty south of Louisiana, Baton Rouge. Now, this is the heart and soul of racism. I went to Robert E. Lee High School. The mascot is Robert E. Lee, the Confederate general, the Confederate flag. I went to this high school. So the thing is that the fear has now informed the ignorance even further, because people learn this from generational, from whatever they learn it from. But through organizations like this and the conversations we're having just openly, Gene, Sharon, Stanley, we're all saying what we're talking about. And the similarities with both groups, I think, in the entertainment business, Blacks and Jews have forever gotten along because, I mean, we are essentially a big part of the entertainment business. So I think that level of respect, if not even so much the color, at least respect for the talent. So I think, you know, we got to start with the respect and the compassion and humility, but there needs to be a conversation. Why do you hate me? Why do you fear me? Why am I a group of people that's clumped in over here and it's just a general blanket statement? Hate all Black people, hate all Jews, hate all Asians, hate all whatever. Why is that a thing? So do you not want to learn? Do you not want to know? Is the fear keeping you company and forming more of the ignorance so you can stay over there and not know? Or you just want to go on with your grandparents or whatever did? And now, what I'm loving about now is us doing this today. I'm loving this organization. I'm also loving the bright side of TikTok, the bright side of social media, of everything that's happening, because it's given us another lens to now say the public, George Floyd, the public, the world saw this, not just America, the world saw it and the world objected. The whole world was marching. That is amazing. And I know, to sit here, all of us on this, to think that during the Martin Luther King 60s and the marches, we thought, man, we'd already arrived. I mean, Rosa Parks, we thought, oh my God, you know, Stanley's absolutely correct. And Gene's correct. Listen, a lot of the Jewish people were marching along with Martin Luther King because he's really a man for good for all. Because, I mean, that's what we're all after. We gotta.
There was what, 10 or 12 rabbis that marched that day.
Exactly, exactly. But I'm saying the thing is, though, Sharon, that now this happened to show us that, whoa, Okay, while the world's on its knees, I think this whole thing is divine intervention in a weird sort of way with COVID. Now that you're on your knees, stuck at home, whoa, George Floyd, look at this. Did you think that racism was done? So the whole world, while they're on their knees, reacted. This is the most powerful, eye-opening tool that we've had in a long time since Martin Luther King. So it just shows us that how far we've come, we still have even farther to go. Gene, you're absolutely correct. We got a long ass way to go, bro.
It can't be changed unless we get better education. It's the next generation. This generation that's our age and our kids' age, I got 30-year-old kids. They're in their 30s, okay? They're having kids. Unless their kids can be educated the right way. You talk to American kids, they know nothing about slavery in this country. They know nothing of that. They know nothing about what happened in the First World War, the Second World War. Nothing. The education standard in this country is 34th in the world. 34th in the world.
Sharon?
Kids, especially your kids that don't even have pencils or paper in schools or books.
Sharon, I'm gonna cut in here because you actually provided a great segue for one of our audience questions, which was a topic I was going to get to a little bit later, but I think it's timely right now based on what you're saying. It's a question from Sherry Lesnick. Everyone on the panel is from the same generation. I know you're not talking about me, Sherry, but that's okay. The schism between our communities and the entertainment sorry, just another question about it. The schism between our communities and the entertainment industry appears lately to be in the Gen Z millennial groups. And the question is, can the panelists comment on how to reach out to young groups, how to engage young groups of executives, of artists, of managers, of promoters? I want to say about this, I'm not going to, I don't have the evidence in front of me that this schism doesn't exist in the older generation. And I'm not going to make assumptions about that. But I will say, whether it's on platforms like Clubhouse, or it's, you know, in examples on other forms of social media, I have personally seen some pretty tough tensions existing between the Black and Jewish communities over the last year or so, right? I have seen this personally. And so I think it's a great question. What is the message to the 20-something, the 30-something, even the 40-something executives today, the artists today? Your experiences, your history provides what insights to that next generation?
Sharon to me was right on it. Sharon to me was right on it because listen, on American Idol, the biggest TV show in America in the last 30 years, do you know we had contestants, and I don't want to say who they were, that were winners, that Sharon, all of the Brits, Simon, all of the producers couldn't believe were illiterate. Illiterate, couldn't read or write.
People
Guys.
Can't read.
Guys.
I know.
So where are we with the education? Part of the thing is if the parents don't know, so you got, it's almost like the genocide of the hood, we call it. First, they didn't know. Now they don't know that they don't know. Now they don't know that they don't know that they don't know, and nobody cares to give it to them. So if the parents can't educate the kids because the grandparents didn't educate them, or they educated them through hatred, just to keep that lineage going, to say, don't hate them, they're taking all the jobs, or hate them, they're doing this or doing that to you. Right. Then if we don't have education, we're lost. And that's the whole thing about the youth today.
Well, listen, I'm gonna cut in again. Randy, I'm gonna cut in. I want to try and focus this conversation on the entertainment industry specifically. And I want to try and focus it on, right, like you've worked at record labels, you've worked, all of you have been and dealt with, you know, the insides of giant music companies, right? And I want you to picture those boardrooms. I want you to picture those office politics. I want you to picture people who are probably generally good intentioned, but there seems to be this, like, we're seeing people fall back on stereotypes sometimes. We're seeing people, right? Like, these are some of the things that are happening, and it works in every direction. So what guidance do you have on that front for the active entertainment industry today, if any?
Listen, can I jump in here? I'll tell you one thing. You know, people, kids, young people, I have kids, and a lot of these, my kids are bored. They don't know that they're bored. A lot of these guys, as far as education is concerned, it's easy. It's very comfortable to take a general point of view about anything. I mean, let's face it, all of us do it. We all do it as human beings. It's easier to go they, them, these people. We all do it. You know, some people do it more destructive than others. I think, like Randy and Sharon brought a good point up, which is education is the problem. It's the underbelly in this society. Matter of fact, I'll even go as far as saying all societies. It doesn't matter, like, you know, whether these polls, whether this country's number 1 or number 3. Yeah, it does. You know, the stats are okay, but let's just face it. If you look around the world, all the wars that are going on, all the different skirmishes and things, there's a lack of education. Getting back to this group, this alliance here, one of the things that we could do is target, like, education is a big subject, you know, it's a big universe. I mean, and the lack of education is even bigger. You can pick something and we can go in, even if it's, I mean, I like what Gene said, you know, even if it's like pointing out who the Karens are. I mean, it's those girls crack me up. When I see them, you know, I'm amazed. I'm amazed at the length someone will go to try to discredit somebody. But I really think if we stay on this line of education, that's something that we can do. It's something that we can start. We're not going to fix the problem, maybe not even in our lifetime, but we can still make some inroads into it and perhaps inspire others to do it. Now, how we do that, I mean, you know, I'm a jazz bass player. I can't give you all the answers here right now, but I do know in general what we can do. It's a very powerful group of two different groups there, and we can do something.
May I chime in?
Yeah, please. I'm gonna have Gene go, and then Sharon, I'll come to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Look, the old phrase, and I didn't come up with it, is united we stand, divided we fall. There's just no other way out. They're
Yeah.
going to pick on you, Randy. I'm next.
Right.
Okay? We look different. Says who? I had a really long discussion about 1982. It was one of the southern states, doesn't matter which one. And this guy was giving a long tirade about the superiority of Europeans and all that stuff. I said, what are you talking about? You're African. This guy was really light-skinned and all that stuff. You're African. We're all African. He says, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
I used to teach 6th grade in Spanish Harlem, okay? I know what I'm talking about. I said, that's right. Your DNA, it's the Australopithecines. Australopithecus africanus, otherwise known as Australopithecus afarensis, which was discovered in what was then known as Tanganyika in the Olduvai Gorge by L.S. Leakey, bitch. Look it up. Find out. You're African.
Right.
You're black. And the Ku Klux Klan, of course, they hide in the shadows like cockroaches, have to wear their masks and everything because you don't want them to know who they are. Jews kill them and they burn crosses. You're a moron. The cross you're wearing, the guy that hung on there was not only Jewish, but a rabbi. So yes, education is important, but I do believe importantly in prioritizing. When you see a rabid dog coming at you, let's train our dogs health. I think that's further back in the line. The rabid dog you got to treat, you got to confront right now. I'm telling you that right now, we play concerts all over, and so have all of you, and Sharon's been on tour all over. There's hatred everywhere, in all, you hate
every single
country. You've got to confront that, and it starts at home. Your friend starts telling an off-color joke, even the phrase.
Gene, why did they wear hoods? Because they could go back into society leading a life of we're righteous, we're church-going people. Don't be afraid of us. We're lovely Americans, okay?
Right.
They could go into society, go into everybody's living rooms, but inside their heads, they were full of hate. They hated everything and everyone.
So,
wasn't pure white. There is no difference now. Its history repeats itself over and over and over. And because of the way society is, and because of social media, everything's in the open now. Everything, all these hate groups, everything has a platform. They have a stage now. And that's why we're seeing more and more, because they have a stage. And
I would much rather see the covers down like they are now. That's the thing that if there's any positive for this.
Come out, man.
Yeah, I'm good.
Show your face. Let us know who you are.
If I may,
Psychologically, let's just talk about.
Go ahead, Randy.
Sorry, Bill. Psychologically, let's just talk about why do things keep repeating themselves? Because the truth may dispel everything. Oh, I was wrong. What? I don't really hate them. I really love them. Oh my God. So that's why the parents, the grandparents, that's why everybody keeps the whole lie and the perception of that hatred alive. But let me just point to what Bill was talking about in the boardrooms and all of these entertainment, movies, film, TV, music companies. They gotta adopt the same thing that the sports companies did. Listen, we love you. We love your talent, Gene. We love your talent, Sharon. We love your talent, Randy. You love your talent, Sharon. But guess what? If you're illiterate, I gotta try and help you. If you don't know how to manage your money, I gotta try and do something about that. I gotta try and start committees. I see a lot of labels and companies trying to start them to worry about the welfare of these people that we're profiling the money from, that we're making all these riches off of, as opposed to just taking their money and seeing them go through the toilet.
Yeah.
I appreciate that, Randy, very much. I appreciate you coming back to the entertainment business.
I have to say just one thing, Bill.
Yes.
I work with this woman, Cheryl Underwood, brilliant
Yes.
comic. She's brilliant, very, very well-read woman. I would say to her, why is it that this younger generation, they come up every video, they throw the money around, it's the bling, the money, the money, the money. Why do they have to keep doing this? It's not healthy. And she sat me down and she went through her childhood to me. And she went through her mother's childhood. And she said, you've got to realize that half of these kids that are making it today can't read, can't write. They see everybody their whole lives driving fancy cars, doing this, doing that. They have a talent. Through their talent, they've earned this money. They can't believe it. They want the whole world to see what they have just got. And it's not them boasting. They just can't believe that they now have it. And they just are like, it's like their dream. And I get it.
And I just want to be clear too, that might be her experience, that might be the experience for some folks, and certainly for lots of other folks who are making it, it might not be the experience, right? We don't want to cast.
Sharon brought up something very interesting though, guys. The next topic should be what everyone, listen, we're all very smart on this call today because we're all accomplished in our own rights and have done great, amazing things and so blessed. But listen, guys, perception is the king, queen, and crown prince of the universe. The hood, there's a saying in the hood, lead singers, politicians, preachers, ministers, whatever you call them, we don't know where they're going. They don't know where they're going, but we're dumb enough to follow them. So what's happened now, Sharon, is that people in power that have the vision, like us, that can see and know how to manipulate the marketplace and use perception as the king, crown, prince of the universe. It's not how good it is, it's how good we make you think it is. They prey upon these things. Let me show you this. You love that money, you love that bling, you love all that ice, you love all these women, the wine, the song, the cars, while I'm taking this from you. So remember, that's what the politicians do. This is the greatest thing with all the ministers. Listen.
And they don't realize that they're never going to see their masters again, that the record company owns the masters. They're never going to see their own publishing. They're never going to own their own publishing. They're never going to get, probably with, managers that don't probably account. It is, do you know what it is? I'll give you an example. Fans that used to come into my father's office 100 years ago, and I know, Bill, you're going to say we want to talk about now, but people.
No, that's okay.
Fundamentally have this in their head. fundamentally, and I don't care what fucking age they are. My father used to say, Jesus, are they green? All right, call up this lawyer. He'll do great for them because they're thick. They don't know this industry. So you would pick the weakest lawyer and say, here, call this lawyer.
Of course.
So I'm gonna cut in, Sharon.
She's
'cause
right. She's so right. She's right on that. You're right about that.
So let me ask you guys a question that's grounded in the entertainment industry, because I actually think that's a great segue into a specific question I wanted to ask about that very topic, Sharon. There is, because I don't want to ignore the history that leads to today. There is a well-documented history of Black artists being exploited by the music industry. I mean, there's also a well-documented history of all artists being exploited by the music industry, but there is a specific and powerful history of Black artists being exploited by the music industry. And at times, as has been well documented, some of those doing the exploiting were Jewish leaders of influential labels, some of the indie labels releasing what we called race music in the 1940s. And my question is, has the music industry adequately acknowledged this history? And if not, how important do we think this is? Is it important in order to move a conversation like this forward in the most meaningful and impactful ways that we can talk about these things?
Can I respond?
Yeah, I'm gonna let Gene go. I haven't heard from Gene from a minute, which is kind of weird. So I'm gonna start with Gene.
I really believe in prioritizing. You're right. Education. You're right. The person next to you at a party is starting to, have you heard the one about the 3 items, so and so? No, stop it right there. But that's not, in my mind, as serious as rampant hatred. Somebody coming up to your car and hurling epithets. Don't let that cockroach get away in the dark. Don't do that. And I want to tell you something is, you're not going to be able to change the DNA of that person, that Karen or that racist guy running up the steps of Congress. You're never going to change it. You're going to have to wait for them to die off, but we can identify them. Who is this hatred? Who is this cancer in our society? Where do they live? Let's send them to the hills of Tennessee someplace legally. I want to make the point that the future is only going to be as bright as we're going to fight to make it. The future is only going to be as bright for our children as we're going to make it. So I do believe you've got to prioritize. Get those cameras out, get those cell phones out, find out where the Karens live. A lot of those people stop having normal lives. The fact that a racist can walk up to you and start hurling epithets, or I hate Sharon, she's a kike, and she's this, and she's all that kind of stuff. Coming from the Jewish cycle, which is God's perfect creation, but that's another story. These are semantics, and I'm not anti-semantic. I want to tell you that.
I want to ask, does anyone want to, listen, here's the thing I'm trying to do here with this conversation. I think everyone agrees with everything that you guys are saying. Like these ideas of like exposing the cockroaches and educating people broadly and educating even people specifically about these issues. I think not everyone's on board, obviously, in America, but I think a lot of the people we're speaking to in the entertainment industry are at least conceptually on board.
Yeah, what you said about has the music industry made amends to each other? Are you fucking nuts?
Yeah.
I mean, I might be. It's a question, though, that I'd love the answer to.
That ain't gonna fucking happen. Who's gonna
Not going to happen.
That ain't gonna happen.
I think what Gene says is a really important thing. How this is all prioritized, because there's a lot of different issues, and you want to pick the one that you get the most real estate on. Yeah. The history thing is great. There are books all about this stuff. There are all kinds of guys, Chuck D. There's all sorts of people that you can put them in a classroom. The problem is, what's the platform? Like what platform? You ultimately want to get everybody. If this was a perfect world, you could get everybody in front of said speaker, and that person can give a history lesson. But what Gene says is a very important thing, and it should really be looked upon. It's a subtlety, which you want to get what you'll get the most real estate at. You don't want to 15, 20 years from now, you're laying up in the bed gagging or something. and all you've done is given history lessons to people. You know, I mean, I think spotting people, you know, being a little more militant, a little more aggressive. I mean, we're older guys. I don't see Randy running out there with a Uzi or anything, but
A bazooka, though, a bazooka.
maybe. But I do think spotting like injustices, spotting, you know, what I call people that are extremely suppressive and in the business of, you know, they don't have the power to subjugate other people anymore. I mean, and actually, Sharon, you said another thing that was really subtle, but when you look behind what you said, it's a big subject. We do have a mental mechanism that keeps coming down generation, all the way back to Moses. Like, why do we hate? That's a psychological, Freudian, you know, that's another thing that we could talk about. But I personally, I kind of like Gene's approach. Let's get out there and do something, you know?
Here's what's happening, guys. The silver lining, if there's any in all of this in the time we're living in, social media is actually helping us. The George Floyd thing was a real coup that none of us planned. I do believe that that's divine intervention too, because the whole world marched with Martin Luther in the 60s, the whole world. So guess what it's about, right? We're all parents on this. We are not going to tell the young 18-year-old, and they're not probably going to listen to us, but they will listen to that 21-year-old, that 19-year-old, that 25-year-old that they love. They'll listen to Travis Scott. They'll listen to DaBaby. They'll maybe listen to Post Malone. So it's really about giving those people now the power to speak, which they are all speaking up for. So that, to me, if we do anything, we got to help to empower more of those. And the entertainment community has to help to empower those. The Grammys, everything has to help to empower that youth to say, hey, you know this is wrong. Speak your mind. Stand up for it. Gene's right.
Yeah.
Stop
Exactly.
it as soon as it
Well,
starts.
you know, there's another thing. I think people have a shut up. Don't tell me what to do. Don't tell me what to think. They have this reaction of shaking your finger. You know, you're morally wrong. In other words, I'm holier than thou. There's a subtle way. A long time ago, before any of you were born, Aerosmith and Run DMC did a video together without preaching about brotherly love or about, hey, that's kind of cool.
On MTV.
That's right. And it was on MTV, broadcast around the world without any messaging or whatever. Soon as Stephen, you know, and Ron put their, you know, arms around each other, you're sending a message without shaking your finger on there. And that's what we got to do.
That's
so
nice.
If I see Randy at the A&R studios someplace and stuff, I go over to him and I talk to him.
Right.
He doesn't want me to because he's busy producing Sam from Sam and Dave.
Right, exactly, Sam and Dave.
But you know, it begins and ends there. This idea of the public statement without shaking your fingers at it. But I still believe prioritizing. You've got rabid dogs among us. Let's find out where they are and minimize the effect they have. Otherwise, they're going to be running around. And by the way, infecting a lot of people with the hate. Who are they? What are their names? Where do they live? Here's your power.
Away from this is that one thing the Black Jewish Entertainment Alliance can think about is how to create the most powerful and clear messaging around some of the things you're talking about, education, powerful and clear messaging about zero tolerance on some of these transgressions. Am I hearing that right?
Okay, all right, I want to ask you this. Okay, young kid, country and western singer, country star. He's in his early 20s. He is drunk going into his house.
We're talking about Morgan Wallen here.
Morgan Wallen, right.
Okay, what's his fucking excuse? What's his excuse?
I don't know, but he learned it from somewhere, Sharon. I'm sure it's handed down from generation.
Right, it's born in him. It's his, it's where he comes from, his family. They throw that word out. They throw that word out like blacks and this
But
and
you know what though?
whatever.
But you know what though, guys? This is a teachable moment, right?
That's right. We could teach that.
To build on. We can sit down with him and have that conversation and say, bro, Somebody's sitting with him and Travis Scott, him and whomever you want. Why do you hate me? Now,
but it's not teachable, Randy. Do you know why?
I
Because
understand that.
a million more fucking albums, because all those people that think the same way as he does go, oh, he's good, we're gonna buy that.
Listen, we're not talking about the quality of the music. I think he made an amazing record.
No quality.
No, Randy, just to be clear, what Sharon is saying is,
Quality.
hold on one second, just to give a little context here. Morgan Wallen was the number one selling, had the number one selling album in America for 3 weeks when this video came out.
Right.
And after the video came out, and after radio removed him from their playlists, and after Spotify and Apple Music removed him from his playlists, his sales went up.
Yeah.
And his
No,
streaming
I get it.
The learnable lesson. The learnable lesson to me
Sharon,
is
let me ask, can I ask you?
people like him.
I get your point. Did you watch his apology video?
Yeah, I did.
So my question to the panel then, because this is one of the things I wanted to ask you, this idea of cancel culture has been very much in the headlines the last year or so, and it's nothing new, but I think in this highly polarized moment in America, it has taken on a new utility, if you will. It's being used in different ways. Social media has empowered it. We have examples in just the last couple of weeks, whether it's Morgan Wallen, seeing his sales and streams go up after an incident like this. We had Nick Cannon, who had to take some time away from Nickelodeon because he made some anti-Semitic remarks. And that just in the last week or two, the plans for him coming back have all been sort of made more clear. How do we feel about cancel culture? Is there a time when canceling is the right answer? Or generally speaking, if we're willing to take someone's apology at face value, is the powerful opportunity to turn these things into teachable moments?
I personally think that the cancel culture is brought on by what you see today. It's brought on by TikTok. It's brought on by the same kids that we're talking about informing that are going to really help to shape and inform the future. So guess what? I don't think we can take that back. They feel the way they feel. This is part of their angst and saying, next, move over, you're done. So look, it's a teachable moment if exactly what Gene said. Morgan Wallen, this is the Steven Tyler Run DMC moment. So should Morgan Wallen should he now embrace that and say, okay, look, I'm gonna take the blackest of black of whatever I can find. I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna join hands, I'm gonna say, I was wrong. Let's try and unite this world together. Look, I didn't understand. They say the truth comes out when you're drunk, whatever. But now I know a different kind of truth. We're moving on, we're moving forward. We shall overcome.
And a
Hold
bigger
on, Gene,
idea.
hold on 1 second, Gene. I'm going to get to you. Gene, I'm going to get to you next right away. I have a follow-up question for you, Randy, which is like, do you think Black artists are going to want to be in that position? Are going to be willing to be used that way potentially?
No, it's not really being used. It's like, look, do we want to help to build a bridge? Are we trying to really make this a place for all of us? So you can't do it and complain about it if you're not also reaching some olive branch. If the person reaches an olive branch and says, because I'm thinking, listen, when you look at most hip hop records, that lyric, like it or not, is in them.
Yeah. Here's the thing.
So,
I'll say this, and then I'm going to go to you.
And hip hop is really pop now. You come from Billboard. Hip hop is really crossover. That's why it's so huge. So we talk about the hip hop audience being the 12-year-old, very wealthy, middle to upper class blonde kid from the suburbs, yelling these Cardi B lyrics, yelling all these lyrics. 12-year-old. So what are we really? So I'm saying you can't have it both ways here. So
I just want to say, because I think some of this might be generational, I don't know. I definitely have students in the Bandier program who are feel tired of having to turn the other cheek, feel tired. Like they don't want to be tolerant of Morgan Wallen, and they don't care how Morgan Wallen feels. And the teachable moment might be get lost, Morgan Wallen. No, I'm not saying that's what should happen. I'm saying I believe there are other perspectives on that. Gene, I've been trying to get to you for a minute. Please go ahead.
I go back to my original point that modern technology and YouTube and all that, the teachable moment is to actually see the person who ranted and rave this cancer that's coming out of their oral passage instead of their backside is to hear them actually say, I was an asshole. I need to check myself and find out what it's all about. And how about some community service? Write some checks to Howard University, to NAACP. In other words, the fact that they get up and talk, and I contribute to NAACP. What do I get out of it? Nothing. But the point of it is that you've got a moral, I don't advertise or anything, you got a moral checklist. You know, God's counting it up, you know? You're not, that's a nice thing you did, and all that stuff. And by the end, you can't go, I woulda, coulda, shoulda. Your gravestone should say thank you and good night. But I want to say that the best thing about these country singers or rappers or Nick Cannon or anybody else is they were caught. And so they have to publicly, because without them, the cockroaches hide. By the way, the cockroach could be your uncle. It could be your family member. It could be your brother and sister. There are younger kids who can't believe that their fathers went up to Congress, these racists who, I just thought he was my father. Get that video out, identify them, and embarrass them. So what happened was, I know that Cannon's a good guy, and he went and met with a rabbi who tried to educate him on some stuff. That's the teachable moment.
I worked with Nick Cannon for years. He's a bench.
And he's a friend of mine, so, you know, we love him. And I love that he did that.
You know, I just think he was pissing around, and he, you know, he didn't mean any of it. He's a great, good guy.
He's a good dude. But I think, guys, we got to use the perception that we know that we built in this entertainment business. Getting back to entertainment, what it does best. Listen, I don't know who's number one right now, whatever it is. They could be good, they could be all right, whatever it is. Maybe it's a good song. We built this. We built using the perception. So guess what? The brightest bulb in the room, the loudest voice on the planet, use it for a teachable moment. What are we doing if we're not using that moment? Listen, we can all, it's about the youth growing up saying, whoa, this is our Run DMC moment. We were at odds. Now that we're not going to like love each other, but we're going to at least respect each other and understand. That to me is part of the key here. And we got to use Clubhouse or whatever you want. You know, it's Clubhouse today, tomorrow it'll be something else. There's always some new fad on social media jumping off.
The number one album right now continues to be Morgan Wallen. A little moment of levity here. Just I'm going through some of the Q&A from the audience. Question, can we have a reality show with the 4 panelists that just confront artists who say racist or anti-Semitic hateful things and teach them history and don't leave until the artist recants? So I don't know if you guys, since none of you are busy doing anything else, I feel like
I'll do it.
as a member,
I'll do it.
As a member of the people who gave you all the Bible and the 10 Commandments, I just want to know how much.
Exactly.
Thank you.
A couple of other thoughts here from the audience, and I think this is relevant. I think if Morgan Wallen, this is from the audience, Casey Adler. I think if Morgan Wallen wants to make real amends, it's not merely about apologizing, but rather he should educate the people in his community who are outright or silent bigots. He should do what Daryl Davis, the Black musician, has been doing for years, educating KKK members and changing their perspective. It's about action, not words. I do want to say I'm not a Morgan Wallen apologist in any way, shape, or form. His apology was heartfelt, and to me, or it seemed heartfelt. And to me, what was most interesting about the apology video, which he issued probably too late, was that he directly told people who were sticking up for him to stop. He said that in his apology video. He said, I have work to do. If you're defending me, don't. And I thought that was the one powerful moment from his video.
Well, listen, guys, Bill, not to cut you off, but look.
No, please go ahead.
His record company told him to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't read my mind. I was just going to say his publicist.
Any apology be authentic then?
This needs to be something real off the cuff, not written by a publicist. This needs, listen, why don't we go and do a town hall with it?
Sure, we can reach out and try and set that up.
There you go. That's good.
I think that would be a great use.
No
Like when we talk
publicists
about Black
allowed.
Jewish entertainment
Can't
alliance,
talk
I
to
think that might
them.
be a great use of
We'll
it.
use the Facebook metrics to see if he's spoken to the publicist or not.
And no questions up front.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go to a couple of other audience questions. This is another fun one, and then we'll come back to a lot of these core issues before we wrap up. Michael Berry wants to know a question I was actually curious about. We have 3 of the best bass players in the history of music in the room right now, and so Michael Berry wants to ask, bass traditionally plays a supportive role in music. It is as much about listening as performing. What lessons have Gene, Stanley, and Randy taken from music that they can apply to race relations and other life lessons? I think that is a beautifully worded question. What do you got?
Who's
Well,
first?
A bass playing on its own is a very sad instrument. If you're a racist or somebody else, you need the difference of
Rough,
different
man.
tones and percussion to make a full rainbow of stuff. So if you apply a band or a string quartet, a cello by itself is very sad. You need the violin. So the differences that make it, the differences in metals make strong alloys. You know, the gold is pure. It's useless. It's very soft. You can't do it. Dogs who are, you know, their own genes are retarded. It is mutts that are completely stronger and everything. So it's the humanity and whole, the differences in us that make us stronger.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to go to Stanley and then Randy. Stanley,
Yeah.
what has playing the bass taught you that might be applicable in race relations or in life?
You know,
Great answer,
in my
Thanks.
my early life as a bass player, you know, I did a lot of sessions. I was in New York City. I did some stuff in Philadelphia as well before that. But you know, when I came to New York, I did a lot of sessions, and I really understood supporting others, but at the same time understanding that my position as a bass player was a very powerful position, and you know, and I very quickly respected that. But I got to tell you, later on, when Return to Forever got together, which was Chick Corea, myself, the drummer Lenny White, and the guitar player Al Di Meola, we had 2 Italian guys, 2 African American guys, and we used to talk about racism a lot. And one of the cool things that Chick said, just to echo something that Gene said, and I believe the other guy said this, it's a wonderful thing to disseminate like unity. And that's actually something we could do. Actually, I think Randy was heading in this direction. I mean, like, you know, having a town hall, having some musical event where you have like a guy who plays country music and you have a guy that's like a black jazz musician there. Just, you know, because in music, you can do anything. In Return to Forever, Al Di Meola was a guy that basically kind of, you know, he kind of came up listening to Carlos Santana, that kind of thing. Chick Corea was just a genius, classical music, and he listened to hardcore bebop. Myself, I was all over the place. Lenny was kind of funk, swing, and we were somehow we were able to play together. We just decided, yeah, we were going to play together, and we had a lot of success in the jazz world. And the lesson here for me is that through communication, willingness, and have a set goal, and have the actual thing you're trying to disseminate. You know, I don't believe that everyone that displays hate is 100% full of hate. I have a little more, I just have a little more, I just have a little more faith in humanity than maybe someone else might. But I do believe that when you look at the psychology of groups, like just say all those guys that rushed the Capitol, I don't believe everyone out there was racist. I think there's always a small group of people, and they're very evil, and they have their minions. And the minions, the guys that are on the fence, can go either way. They're just uneducated, maybe psychologically shallow or something. And you just got to get out there and communicate to people the truth. You got to tell people the truth. It has to be disseminated, disseminated.
Yeah.
They won't believe you if you tell them the truth. They'll tell you.
I don't know about that, Sharon. I've seen it. I've seen it before. I could tell you some stories of how I grew up in the nice city of Philadelphia, with some real evil characters who are different today and have changed. I believe that man has the ability to change. I also believe that people are basically good. Most of them. There's a small percentage of people that are really evil, and they have the ability to affect a lot of people and that's another subject. Why are some people gullible? Why are some people, just prone to just believe the guy that's the loudest on the mic? That's another subject.
I'm gonna cut that there. And Randy, did you have like a short answer as like what being a bass player taught you about? Just because I want to get to a couple other questions before we have to.
Well, listen, bass is the final frontier to me. I always say that, and people laugh. What I mean by that, racially, it's so funny that you got the great Sharon Osbourne and 3 bass players on this phone, Gene and Stanley being superstar legends. And listen, we all try and bring things together like we're trying to help to bring this together. I think bass is the whole thing that makes the whole thing gel. It's the glue of all of it. We're trying to, if you notice what we're talking about here, guys, we're trying to say we want to be the glue to try and help unite, build bridges, try and help to figure this thing out. Look, we've all had success from it, but I mean, Gene has lived a very rich, great, amazing existence. So is Stanley, so is myself, so is Sharon. So bass is that glue, dude. It brings it all together. Without bass, you ain't got nothing. You might have a beat, and a beat might feel good, but you got to bring the bass in to make the vocals, to make the guitar, to make the chords, to make whatever work.
I want to ask another audience question here, but before I do that, it came up on this panel, the idea that like hip hop will utilize the N-word and it's the mainstream music. So then that creates situations where young folks who are not perhaps people of color might be using that word. And I came up in a question too from the audience. I do want to encourage people to look into, I don't know if our host would consider looking this up and maybe even sharing the link, but Ta-Nehisi Coates, the great author who wrote Between the World and Me, which if you haven't read that book, you should get it and read it tonight. There's an incredible video where he explains, he's speaking to an audience of college students, and one of them basically asks this question, like, why shouldn't white people use the N-word? And he gives this incredible answer that I'm not really gonna in any way try to articulate here. I would be robbing you of a pleasure of watching it.
Give us a short version.
But the very short version is like, it's about community. It's about like, the story he tells, which makes me laugh. He says sometimes his wife gets together with her friends and they call each other bitch when they're talking to each other, but I don't call my wife bitch. And it's very funny the way he says it. Anyway, it's a nuanced answer. It's a very intelligent answer. It's a provocative answer. It's not the only answer, but I would encourage people who are sort of stuck on this particular issue to think about that and think about like tracking that down. If you Google Ta-Nehisi Coates, why shouldn't white people say the N-word, you'll find this great video. And I think it's worth getting that education.
And it's a weird time though, Bill, because the lines are so blurred. That's what I'm saying. So you're talking about people that don't have the education, that are living under fear, that you're asking a lot of people that maybe are not that. I get it. The lines are so blurred.
Do, Randy, right?
Like my friends, 12-year-old kids saying the word.
With the Black Jewish Entertainment Alliance, I think one of the opportunities here is to be a center of exactly this sort of education.
Exactly.
So I'm going to go from that to I think kind of a little bit more of a bombastic question from G. Lance Bell. Does Israel come into this? Anti-Zionism equals anti-Semitism. I'm just going to throw that out there for the panel. Does anyone want to? I've seen that, I will say, in some of the younger generation things that I've been seeing. It is sometimes like.
Could you just repeat that? I'm sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. G. Lance Bell asks, does Israel come into this? Is Israel a factor? Because the perception might be that anti-Zionism equals anti-Semitism. I will connect the dots for the panel in this particular way. I've seen some of the worst occasions where I have seen Jewish stereotypes bandied about in specific instances by people of color have come up in the context of people describing rights for Palestine. Now, this is a very complex issue. I don't think we should begin to tackle, hold on.
Yeah.
I just want to say this, and then I'm going to turn it over to you. I don't think we should begin to tackle the Israel-Palestine question on this panel, please. I think there's a different panel where we should talk about the context of entertainment. But now I'll hand it over.
Who's
Gene,
talking?
do you want to say something?
I was born in Israel. I know I don't look Swiss. The answer to your question is yes. If you're Israeli, of course, there are Christians, Muslims, all kinds of people living there. Predominantly, it's a Jewish country, so therefore Zionism equals Jewish. But it's not an issue for me. It used to be. During World War II, Jews were unprepared for the evil that was Nazi Germany. I wish I shared Stanley's point of view that humanity is by and large good. No, it's possible for a cancer to take over a body, and the cancer was Adolf Hitler, and it infected an entire men, women, children. They believed it into their DNA. However, the Jewish population of World War II were decimated because they had no power. I'm not concerned about Israel. The cell phone you're using, that technology was invented in Haifa, where I was born. A lot of the technology in the world. Am I afraid of Israel? No, it's the 6th nuclear power on earth. Bring it on. Not concerned at all about that. I'm more concerned right here in America with the hatred. You could see an enemy or somebody coming at you militarily in Israel. You can see that. In America, the cockroaches hide among us. And I keep going back to that point. Education is important. Stop your friends from making black jokes and kike jokes and Muslim jokes and all that stuff. Get it? I get it all. You've got to identify where the cockroaches are. Where do they live? What are their names? And you have all the power. So what we're doing actually is, this is a megaphone. We're talking about it. And because we're entertainers and you've got this avenue, we can talk to people and say, you've got the power. You can make the switch. You can change the world. Start with your cell phone. Find out where the cockroaches are and change it. And, thereafter, when they're in jail or when they lost their job, have the education moment. Before that, if they're hiding in the shadows, they're not going to want to listen to you. You're not going to change your mind. When they're a country singer and privately they make that crap, that racist stuff up, if they're caught, you have to come out into the light and, get baptized.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're basically at time. I've tried to pull in as many audience questions as possible, as many audience observations as possible. There was an interesting observation here that I wanted to share with you all and with everyone listening in. Casey Adler shares, there's a lot to learn from the Ebenezer Baptist Church and the Temple in Atlanta, who have been swapping preacher and rabbi for years, including Senator Raphael Warnock. It would be great to have that kind of secular entertainment bridge within the young generation. LA has a huge Jewish and Black community, but in a lot of ways they are segregated. Would Black Jewish Entertainment Alliance do something like a weekend workshop or retreat, which brings young Jewish and Black musicians together to create songs and learn? I think that sounds like a pretty amazing idea. I just wanted to give it a little bit of light.
It's a brilliant idea.
It's genius.
Great, I like that.
Maybe start in LA and then grow from there. It would be a brilliant idea.
But this is the kind of work the Alliance can do. This is what we really should be doing.
Yeah.
I laugh to myself because I grew up as a Baptist kid in the Baptist church. But do you know that there's segregation amongst the Baptists and the Christian communities? It is just baffling what has happened with these groups all going into silos on their own. The togetherness and the bridges that we can build with this alliance, this is really what the alliance should be about in every community we can reach.
I like that, Randy.
I'm going to make it a point to bring an extra yarmulke. I want to see what Randy looks like in one of those.
I need one. I need a gold one though, with like diamonds on it.
Oh, of course.
Of course. Come on, man.
Yeah.
Hook me
up, man. Hook me up, Gene.
At Selma, when they were doing Selma, they brought in a couple of thousand yarmulkes, and the black people were saying it's a sign of peace, and they were wearing them too.
Sure.
Not everyone, but a lot of people were.
Sure.
Here's a point of education in case people don't know. The history of the kippah, the head covering, is when Jews were slaves in Egypt. I was a yeshiva buffer and all that. I used to have the payas and all that stuff.
Wow.
The head covering, the slaves, all the slaves, their hair was shaved because they didn't have enough water to, water was very important in the desert. And if you did have hair, you'd have, things crawl in your head. So they shaved, and you could also identify a slave right there. So there were Africans, obviously, lots of Ethiopians, I found out, Jews, all kinds of different people who built the pyramids. You could identify who they were, but they started dropping like flies because of the sun. So they covered their head. That kippah, that head covering, Muslims also, is a sign of humility, which means wear that thing, because no matter how high up in life you get, remember your forefathers and mothers were slaves. You're no better than that. It's a sign of humility, and that's what I like about it.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, I'm going to
Beautiful.
get some diamonds and
Love
put Randy's name on the yarmulke and get some bling up there.
Yeah, get some bling and put dog on the top of it. Dog.
With a propeller, too.
Save a little bit for me too. Save me a little.
Gene, Kiss has sold virtually every conceivable form of merch. There must be Kiss yarmulkes.
We have Kiss condoms. We have Kiss caskets. We'll get you coming, and we'll get you going.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
But Doom, we needed food. Okay.
Yeah. One last thing from the audience. We're getting a lot of questions about the specifics of the Black Jewish Entertainment Alliance. How can people get involved? What are the specific plans? And I just want to encourage people to go to the website, blackjewishentalliance.com. I think that'll be posted now or in the next couple of minutes as well. But there's a lot of good, more specific information there, and ways to contact the organization as well. So I think that's probably your best answer. I want to start to bring this to an end. I guess I have a couple more questions for you all. A question that occurs to me is, it might be nice to think about times that you've seen allies throughout your lives, throughout your histories, where someone did extend themselves beyond their own group and perhaps into yours, whatever that group may be. But can you think of times throughout your careers, like Sharon, we started this whole conversation with you talking about, being Jewish and being young in the business and realizing that there were people who wanted to ostracize or exclude or show their prejudice against Jews the same way they did against Blacks.
I knew before, as a child, it was always you killed Jesus. I'm like, I never fucking knew him. How could I kill him? It's like, you killed Jesus. Fuck off, you Jew. You smell. It's all of that. So I knew about people not liking Jews, but it was in my 20s when I started to live in America that I couldn't believe the way Black people were treated, talked about, because it wasn't that much in Europe at that time. It just wasn't. And then when I came here, I was learning so much about the problem here in this country. And that's when I thought, oh my God, they're chosen people too. So it's there should be a bond. There's a bond there, this invisible bond of years and centuries, thousands of years of suffering, and be discriminated against. Why?
And I knew growing up in the South that being a musician was cool. It was a great thing. But it dawned on me early on, and I got to give a big shout out here, because I figured all the racism, everything that's around me, I can't just be good. I got to strive to be the best. And there's a bass player on here named Stanley Clark that so touched my heart when I heard Return to Forever. I heard Spain is still teaching it in every music school along with Giant Steps today still. that turned me on my head. He still is one of the greatest ever. And that showed me that, listen, wow, if I can be the best, man, maybe something can happen. Then as a kid in high school, I went to a show that my friend drugged me to. And this guy was one of the greatest leaders ever in the music industry. I don't care who's in it, whoever thought they were. Bill Graham was a genius. So upon my 16-year-old self, I went to a show at Lakefront Arena, New Orleans, to see the Doobie Brothers, and the Mahavishnu Orchestra opened for the Doobie Brothers. Oh my God, John McLaughlin, who's John Coltrane on the guitar, playing 80 billion notes and all the subdivisions of ragas of the Indian thing together, was opening up for a pop band. It blew my mind. And I was like, I gotta have, this is what I want. Then the next show I went to see Return to Forever, and I was like, okay, I'm in. This is it. I got to strive to be the best. And if I'm the best, maybe then I'll get a seat at the table no matter what color, where I'm from, what I look like, whatever.
You know, thank you for that.
Stanley,
But, you know, let me jump in here. You know, for me, I had a similar thing. I wish, this is kind of a funny thing to say, but I wish that like certain Black kids in my time didn't have to feel that they had to be 4 times better than everybody else. That was something, I was fortunate enough to have a great grandmother that she lived, we don't know how old she was. I'm sure she was at least 100. And she was born like in, I think around 1864, like right after the Civil War. And she died when I was maybe 13 or 14. And I used to spend a lot of time with her. And she had her scruples all the way up until she passed, you know. And she used to always tell me, you know, you have to be better. You have to be 3, 4 times better than whoever's around you. And that was kind of a curse in many ways to me, because I didn't have a typical, I loved sports. I remember when I went to high school, like the basketball coach said, "Come on, Stanley, I was pretty tall, played pretty good. We need you, we need you." And I just kept hearing my family's voice. You gotta be the best. And I practiced like a demon. It took me where it took me. I guess in many ways I'm happy I did that, but I think Jewish people and Black people have this similar thing. It's a terrible thing at a very young age when you're distinguished in a different kind of way. You walk in a room and you know that someone's looking at you. They could possibly like you, but you're distinguished, and there's some sort of there's something different about you. And as a young kid, when you're 7, 8 years old, this is not cool. Now, I will agree with you. That kind of stuff is embedded in people. It's deep. It's in their DNA and all that, you know. And if I was a genie and I could do one thing, I would get rid of that. You know, if all people could be the same color, or I mean, different colors, but somehow not, you know, look at someone else and decide whether they're better than you or worse than you based off of their skin pigmentation. There's too much fixation on skin pigmentation. I gotta tell you, it's
religion. I said
and religion. I mean, this fixation is killing us. It's killing this country. It's the biggest, in my opinion, it's the biggest stain. I'll just start with the United States, because the power that all these people could have in this country to force beautiful stuff that we could do, it's like, it's just unknown because of all this hate, small hate, big hate, misunderstanding, fixating on this, fixating on all the wrong things. The last 4 years when Donald Trump was president, I had never seen so many people fixated on a politician. That's when I knew something was wrong, because, you know, I've lived through a lot of presidents. The first president I think I became aware of, was it Eisenhower? Maybe I was 5 or 6 or 7. Someone said that guy's a president or something. But all these presidents, and they all have this opportunity to do good things. But this last one we had, and I'm not saying he's this or he's that, but I will say one thing: there was so much fixation on this guy. That is not a good thing, especially for artists. Our thing is to push the good news out to people, which is what we're trying to do here right now. So I hope we can do some of these things that Randy was talking about.
Gene, did you want to add? Thank you, Stanley. And I think these kinds of conversations and the conversations that are yet to come from the BJEA are meant.
I just want to say practicality eventually and invariably, and other big words like gymnasium, take over. And my power's about to die. I just want to say that.
Mine too.
And there you go. There's my 10% battery thing. But your biggest retort, although you may not be retorted, when a moron comes up to you and say, you can't spew this hatred. You're African. You got to go back to Australopithecus africanus. All of your ancestors came from Africa. The Garden of Eden? No, not Israel. It was in Africa, probably Ethiopia, Addis Ababa. That's the thing. Haile Selassie. It was the, yes, Mom. That's where Rastafari came from. I know, 1935. He ran away. Yeah. So the point is, we have the same goddamn blood running through it. You can't run away. If you take a look at, that show Ancestors and all this kind of stuff. The whitest blonde person comes up, I swear on my children to you. My wifey, who's German and stuff, blonde, blue-eyed, just gorgeous woman, 6 feet tall and all that stuff. She's a percentage Liberian, okay? You can't see it. You go, oh, you're from Sweden or Germany or something. Nope, you got some African in you, and it's not your next door neighbor either.
That's right.
Everybody's African, and the farther away you get from the sun, the lighter you get. It's a simple point of pigmentation.
What about if everybody will realize that Jesus was probably black?
He was. I'm sure he's not from Norway.
That's for sure.
Right.
Definitely get hung up on some of these things in ways that are not helpful. I couldn't agree more.
And let me just add one last thing. America's full of sensationalism. So what you have here is sell, add. So this is the youngest country that there is. When I traveled Europe and lived in Europe for a while, I realized this. I'm in Italy. Caesar and Nero were walking the steps doing the drugs that I was doing at the time. Now, we got America that's not that old. We have a lot of embryonic problems because it's an embryo. That still doesn't make it right or just, but we're selling. When you leave your house, when you turn this off to turn on your computer, your phone, there's 80 million ads. All we're doing is selling. Sensationalism is everywhere. So Stanley, that's part of the other issue, why there's so much focus on this or that or this or that.
And the thing too that I just want to say about is every artist has a platform, whether they want it or not. They have a platform, they influence however big their fan base is, a huge fan base, okay?
Sharon is right, and my platform is 7 feet, 7 inches tall.
Whoa.
You're such a tart, so go on.
Thank you very much, thank you.
You go on an award show, okay, to get an award. The whole world is watching, okay? And your fans and the rest of the world. Oh my God, they would shit if you start talking about race, religion, and that's money. Advertisers, you're taking advertisers' space. You've got 2 minutes to say thank you and good night. And so when you've got things like the Grammys, the people have done at the Oscars, and everybody is like, oh my God, no, get the hook, get them off. But, it's part of, it comes with the territory now. And now more than ever before, other than, when the world was in uproar over Vietnam. But now everybody has a platform, and artists should not waste it. And I think
maybe that's another opportunity for the Black Jewish Entertainment Alliance is to think about a prompt for folks prior to award shows, prior to award season, just maybe even a reminder that they have this platform. I want to use this moment, I think, to wrap things, because I don't want to know what the world looks like when Gene Simmons runs out of power. So I think that what I'm going to say here is, first of all, thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Stanley. Thank you, Randy. Thank you, Gene. You're all legends and deservedly icons in your own ways. It's been a real pleasure, a real honor to hear your stories and help facilitate this discussion. I want to thank everyone out there for joining us. To remind you that if you want more information on the Alliance, if you're interested in these issues, please do visit blackjewishentalliance.com. I think it'll be up on the screen. Any final parting short little things so that
I do want to jump in. It's interesting. We all come from the music background.
That's right.
I actually just sell tchotchkes, but that's another story. So we're all involved in music. It bears noting that this amazing music that rules the world all came from the loins of America, black loins.
Right.
All the versions of music that we do, rock and roll, blues, rap, jazz, hip hop, bebop, even country versions of that, rockabilly, all came from those poor black slaves who couldn't read or write music, that picked up a guitar and started doing flat third music, the 1, 4, 5 chords. Musicians will understand what I'm talking about, and talking about their woes, about my baby left me and I can't go back home. Yeah, my baby left me. I got to the floor. I can't go back home. Here she comes down, and I think I'm gonna think of a bone. You rap, and it's blues. All of that came from black music. You think you're so special, white boy? You're playing black music.
Amen.
Right. Amen. Amen.
Now get out.
Yeah, you're beautiful. Now get out of here.
That's right.
Okay. I'm running out of power myself here. So.
Thank you for joining us, everyone. Have a beautiful afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks, guys. Good to see all of
Thank
you.
you. All right, see you guys. Thank you. Let's do it again. All right.
God bless.
All right.